Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. And coming up over the next 1 hour. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack accused Tahawwur Rana files a plea in a US court to stay his extradition to India after a plea to stop his repatriation is rejected. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, in his address in Dublin, calls for strengthening India-Ireland ties. US President Donald Trump signs orders expanding goods exempted from his new Canada and Mexico tariffs. Mexico says thanks. Canada also climbs down. And South Korea's impeached President Yoon to be released from jail as court cancels arrest warrant. Well, first up, 26/11 Mumbai terror attack accused Tahawwur Rana has received a major setback from the US Supreme Court. His petition to stop his extradition to India has been rejected, but within hours, he submitted a renewed application seeking a stay of his extradition to India. 2008 Mumbai blasts were a series of coordinated terror strikes that took place in November 2008. 10 members of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a Pakistan-based terrorist organization, carried out shooting and bombing attacks lasting 4 days. 175 people were killed and over 300 others were injured. Tahawwur Rana is a known associate of Pakistani-American terrorist David Coleman Headley, one of the main conspirators of the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai in 2008. Rana had filed a petition in the US Supreme Court asking for an emergency stay on his extradition, but it was denied on Friday. In his application, Rana argued that he would not survive long enough to be tried in India due to various reasons. In addition to these concerns, Rana highlighted his deteriorating health. Earlier in February, US President Donald Trump had announced the extradition of Tahawwur Rana to India and said he would face justice. He made the announcement during a joint press conference with Prime Minister Narendra Modi following their bilateral meeting in Washington, D.C. Now, in conjunction with this, the 12th Global Terrorism Index was released earlier this week. The new findings suggest that the number of countries recording a terrorist attack increased from 58 to 66. This reverses nearly a decade of improvements, with 45 countries deteriorating. Now, Pakistan ranks second on the Global Terrorism Index 2025 released by the Institute for Economics and Peace earlier this week. In 2024, the number of deaths due to terrorist attacks in Pakistan surged by 45%, with over 1,000 incidents, more than double the previous year's count of 517. This is the first time since the first edition of the index in 2000 that Pakistan has exceeded 1,000 terrorist attacks in a single year. The Sahel region accounts for half of global terror deaths, while ISIS has expanded to 22 countries, deadliest with 1,805 deaths. Burkina Faso ranks first among 163 countries based on the impact of terrorism. The GTI evaluates terrorism through various indicators such as the number of attacks, fatalities, injuries and the overall impact on the country. The Afghan affiliate Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, has become the fastest growing terrorist group in the country according to the report. TTP's attacks spiked in 2004, accounting for over half of Pakistan's terrorism-related deaths, with 482 attacks resulting in 585 fatalities. The group caused a 91% increase in the number of deaths compared to the previous year. Okay, I have two people with me now. My colleague Amritpal Singh, along with Alok Bansal is also joining us, Director, India Foundation and well-known security expert. Let me come to you, Amritpal, first. Let's talk about Tahawwur Rana first, because he is a much sought-after person in terms of bringing all those who were behind 2611 to justice in India, where the crime occurred, and he's been in the US for a long time and still trying to evade his extradition to India. Do you think that his success at this attempt is going to be short-lived?
That's right. Government's going to be short-lived, and for the reason that he's lost, he has lost his primary case in the district courts, then in the Federal Court of Appeals. Then in January, the Supreme Court also, finally said the U.S. Supreme Court set aside his review, saying that there was a case against him for extradition and trial in India. Now, as every accused does, he's using some technical grounds, one or the other. On the 2nd of March, he brought out a judgment of a court in London, in the UK, saying that an arms dealer was given, was not extradited, saying that he could be tortured in India, and that applies to him, and it goes against the US law and the US Convention on Prevention Against Torture. The court obviously saw no merit in it, and the Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court set aside, dismissed his application for emergency stay. His counsel is now approaching the U.S. Chief Justice's court. Unless he approaches the U.S. Chief Justice's court on an entirely different ground, it would be set aside. So it's basically the U.S. courts and the U.S. government has made its intention very clear that they wish to extradite Tahawwur Rana to India for trial in the 2611 attacks, because they see him as a dangerous individual and one who was involved in one of the biggest terrorist activities anywhere around the world. And India and United States are on the same page when it comes to a collective fight against terrorism. Therefore, his chances of getting reprieve from the U.S. courts look limited. Gautam?
All right. It's still vivid, that attack in 2008, Amrit, in many of our memories. Just tell us what specific role, if you can, sort of remind us, did Tahawwur Rana play in this entire conspiracy?
Okay, Tahawwur Rana and David Coleman Headley were, when the investigations happened, 10 people were clearly there, Ajmal Amir Kasab and the 9 others. 9 others were killed. Ajmal Amir Kasab was arrested, tried, and then, executed after a fair trial in Indian courts. About a year later, after the attacks, the role of David Coleman Headley and Tahawwur Hussain Rana came into light, that how David Coleman Headley visited India. Now, according to the confessions of David Coleman Headley in Indian courts through video conferencing, he revealed that Tahawwur Hussain Rana colluded with him, helped him do recce. When he came to India, he made 5 visits to India. He opened a company called the First World Immigration Services, which was owned by Tahawwur Hussain Rana. So he was one of the key conspirators and the planners in the 2611 attacks. Then the Indian investigators found his links and how he was in touch both with the Lashkar-e-Taiba and one Major Iqbal of the Inter-Services Intelligence, or the ISI of Pakistan. So there is enough material with the Indian investigators that he was involved in that. So the case against him is of conspiracy in and planning of the 2611 attacks, for which India is seeking his extradition for trial in India, Gautam.
And very quickly, what about David Coleman Headley? Would he also at some point face justice in India?
David Coleman Headley has already entered into a plea pardon bargain with the United States government. Both of them were sentenced to prison. David Coleman Headley for 35 years, Tahawwur Hussain Rana for 14 years, in a different case, in an attack on a Danish newspaper. Then when the Indian investigators approached the US agencies, the FBI probed this case. Later, David Coleman Headley entered into a plea bargain with the US government. So he wouldn't come, but he's revealed facts, and that is what Tahawwur Hussain Rana tried to do. He said that, one, He's been cleared of the case, therefore he cannot be sent. But the prosecutor argued, the U.S. prosecutor argued against him that his case was different from David Coleman Headley and does not apply in that, and therefore he's liable for extradition. Extradition. He lost that case, as I said, in the district courts, in the Federal Court of Appeals, and finally in the U.S. Supreme Court. So while David Hedman Coley
Coleman Headley, yes. Okay, we seem to have lost Amrit Pal for a bit. Let me bring in Alok Bansal now. Alok Bansal, I was told that when I spoke to Amrit Pal about David Coleman Headley, you smiled. So were you smiling just about the vagaries of American jurisprudence, or were there other reasons associated with it as well?
See, this is just the contradiction that somebody who was far more involved now cannot be extradited because he's entered into a plea bargain. More importantly, unlike Tahawwur Rana, David Coleman Headley has US citizenship. Tahawwur Rana has a Canadian citizenship. So that's also a difference, and I think that's made the difference. But it's a big achievement that Government of India has succeeded in getting Tahawwur Rana. We hope that very soon he'll be in India, and not only will he be convicted and tried and prosecuted for his role in this ghastly attack, but maybe his investigation may reveal certain closeted accomplices which have not probably come to light till date. So there are a lot of advantages. It will not only act as a deterrence, but could probably further take the prosecution's case and maybe unravel certain mysteries which are still not known as far as this ghastly attack is concerned.
And I mean, that's in the realm of the unknown, but let's talk about the known knowns. And one of the known knowns, the biggest ones, is that this was a plot that was planned and executed by a lot of people who have been and are still out of India's grasp in Pakistan, be they non-state actors or even state actors within the Pakistani armed establishment.
See, there is no doubt that Pakistan's ISI was involved in this particular attack, and Government of India has revealed their names, those who were involved. Pakistan has failed to either arrest them, prosecute them, or hand them over to India. And I think this is for global community to see. Now, only this is where US has to show its real mettle, because the President Trump recently thanked Pakistan for handing over a individual who was involved in an attack in Kabul. And he thanked ISI and Pakistani government. Now, I hope he would also pressurize them to hand over these accomplices who were involved in attack on 26/11, because a large number of US citizens also died in that ghastly attack. So I hope that he is in a position to pressurize Pakistan into handing over some of them at least, though it looks quite unlikely that ISI or Pakistan security establishment will part with them easily.
Okay. Well, what Pakistan can consider at the moment is the 12th Global Terrorism Index, which we told our viewers about just after we talked about Tahawwur Rana initially in this bulletin, and it clearly shows that the biggest victim of what it has tried to export to India has now got Pakistan in its grasp.
See, there is no doubt when you create Frankenstein's monsters, they tend to devour you. In fact, Pakistan has used the radicalization to create these tools which they thought will pursue the agenda of their foreign policy and security policy and further their national interests. But they did not realize that this ideology, this radical ideology which they were trying to propagate, creates monsters which will eventually devour them. And that's what is happening. We can see now that Pakistan is suffering, and more attacks are happening in Pakistan, because firstly we need to understand that more radical an ideology, lesser is the tolerance for ambiguity, and consequently all these radical Islamists have differences amongst themselves. They don't accept Pakistani state as pursuing the right agenda or following the Islamic tenets. And so attacks on Pakistani state becomes legitimate. Similarly, they keep attacking others who they perceive are not true Muslims. And as a result, sectarian minorities keep getting targeted.
Yes.
So this sort of attacks will increase unless, of course, Pakistan takes a drastic step to de-radicalize the population. Now, for de-radicalization the population, they'll have to at some stage dissociate themselves from the divisive two-nation theory, which automatically gives religion and Islam the primacy.
Definitely. I mean, it is something for Pakistan itself to consider, even the world for that matter, because there's an overall increase as well in the countries affected by terrorism, and in the Sahel region, it is particularly worrisome. Thank you for joining us, both Amrit as well as you, Alok Bansal, for joining us. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Donald Trump confirms that his administration has held direct talks with the Hamas seeking the release of the remaining Israeli hostages. EU leaders sign off on the move to loosen the bloc's budget rules to allow members to increase their defence spending. And Australia orders thousands in its eastern regions to evacuate before tropical cyclone Alfred makes landfall on Saturday.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, US President Donald Trump has signed orders significantly expanding the goods exempted from his new tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Trump has announced a one-month reprieve from 25% tariffs for goods covered under the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. The goods that are exempted include car makers as well. It is the second time in 2 days that Donald Trump has rolled back his taxes on imports from America's two biggest trade partners. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum thanked Trump for the move, saying that her government security measures have been working in the reduction of opioid fentanyl traffic into the US.
This agreement is valid until April 2nd. Remember that he announced that on April 2nd he is going to announce tariffs to all the countries in the world. So he places Mexico within that international agreement, or the decision he is going to make more than agreement, because it is their decision, but he puts us within. Just like any other country in the world, not with what he was doing now, that finally excluded us.
The White House has also continued to promote its plans for other tariffs, promising action on the 2nd of April, when officials have said they will unveil recommendations for tailored reciprocal trade duties on countries around the world. Now, Washington's latest review of tariffs has drawn sharp criticism from Ottawa as well. Both the sides say they want a resolution, but neither seems willing to back down. Our reporter Tarun Paul has the latest on what these changes could mean for businesses and consumers on both sides of the border.
President Donald Trump launched a trade war against America's three biggest trading partners, drawing immediate retaliation from Mexico, Canada and China, and sending financial market into a tailspin as US faced the threat of rekindled inflation and paralyzing uncertainty for business. Just after midnight, Trump imposed 25% taxes or tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports, through he limited the levy to 10% on Canadian energy. Trump also doubled the tariff as he slabbed last month on Chinese product to 20%.
We know that competition is good, but the American president has decided that competition from foreign interests, he wants to somehow level the playing field, as it were. But in today's day and age, we know that tariffs will have a negative impact on the quality of life, not just for Americans, but for Canadians and for any nation that chooses to engage in this tit-for-tat with regards to tariffs.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown, Councillor Paul Vicente and Member of Council have announced Brampton's new Made in Canada procurement policy, reinforcing support for Canadian businesses amid potential US tariffs. The city will review existing contracts to explore legal options for withdrawing from agreements with US-owned companies and updates its purchasing bylaw to prevent them from bidding on future procurement during tariff period. Additionally, Brampton has launched a national campaign and website urging other municipalities to adopt Made in Canada approach, emphasizing its commitment to strengthening the local economy and advocating for Canadian businesses.
Know that by opening trade and by removing barriers to trade, you will see a net positive for the economic output of this city, this province, and the country, and also for our American friends and their state counterparts. And so we ask everyone to look at the historical record to understand better why it is that we have had trade agreements like the one that the American president has essentially just thrown out the window. And for saner heads to prevail and for us to come to an agreement that makes sense, not just for our nations, but for the people that we represent.
The big three automakers were able to secure a month-long tariff exemption on Wednesday after a conversation with US President Donald Trump. But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrapped a call to the Oval Office with no such guarantee for Canada. Trump has granted a 1-month exemption for any vehicle coming through the Canada-US-Mexico agreement on trade. From Canada, Tarun Paul Singh.
And Donald Trump has also signed an executive order on Thursday to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, a day before meeting with executives from the cryptocurrency industry at the White House. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the federal government that was forfeited as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings, the White House crypto czar billionaire David Sacks said in a post on social media platform X. Attendees at Friday's White House Crypto Summit expect the event to serve as a stage for Trump to formally announce his plans to build a strategic reserve containing Bitcoin and four other cryptocurrencies. And Trump has also confirmed that his administration held talks with the Hamas to secure the release of Israeli hostages. Meanwhile, doubts remain about Hamas's response. Will the negotiations lead to a breakthrough? More in this report by DD India's Sarita Chaudhary.
US President Donald Trump on Thursday confirmed that his administration has been in discussions with Hamas regarding the release of the remaining Israeli hostages.
We are having discussions with Hamas. We are helping Israel in those discussions because we're talking about Israeli hostages. And we're not doing anything in terms of Hamas. We're not giving cash. We're not giving $6 billion like you hear other administrations give. In fact, I got 59 hostages out, and we gave nothing. In 59, we gave nothing.
Meanwhile, Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, reiterated the U.S. stance, saying Washington's priority is to secure the release of the hostages. Addressing reporters at the White House, Witkoff said that the U.S. does not believe Hamas has been forthright in negotiations and urged the group to engage transparently.
We feel that Hamas has not been forthright with us, and it's time for them to be forthright with us. And Eden Alexander would be a very important show. And so we'll see how they're going to react. The president has issued a statement about what's acceptable to him and what's not. And hopefully we'll see some good conduct next week, and I'll be able to go in there and have discussions.
At the same time, the U.S. State Department commented on Egypt's proposed reconstruction plan for Gaza. The plan, which is estimated to cost $53 billion, aims to rebuild Gaza without displacing Palestinians from the enclave. This plan is seen as a contrast to President Donald Trump's proposal for U.S. control and resettlement of Gaza's residents.
And this is what the world wants, not only in this conflict, but other conflicts. no one wins. No one is winning here in this framework. And so, regarding the Arab solution, the Arab deal via Egypt, that what I have for you right now is that it does not meet the expectations.
As the US confirmed its talks with Hamas about the release of Israeli hostages and urging Hamas to be more transparent, meanwhile doubts remain over whether Hamas will cooperate or if the talks will reach a deadlock. Sarita Chaudhary's report for DD India.
The British government had struck a deal with a defense tech company to allow Ukrainian armed forces to use more advanced drones in the Black Sea. In an undated handout video, Anduril Industries showcased the Altair 600 meters and 700 meters drones termed loitering munitions, impacting and exploding military tanks. The UK Defence Ministry has announced a significant contract with Anduril UK to supply Ukraine with advanced drones. The contracts, totaling nearly 38.68 million US dollars, will provide Ukraine with drones capable of monitoring an area and striking targets that enter it. This technology is expected to enhance Ukraine's defense capabilities. An EU leader signed off on a move to loosen their bloc's budget rules to allow member countries to increase their defense spending late on Thursday. Joining us now with more on this development is DW's correspondent, Chimbelu Chiponda. Hi there, Chimbelu. What do you know about this deal that the EU countries have arrived at?
Thanks for having me. Well, the EU is essentially freeing up hundreds of billions for military spending, and we got a bit of a sense of how much we are talking about on Tuesday this week. And that is, of course, when European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen presented the bloc's spending plan. She announced up to 800 billion euros for defense and an additional 150 billion euros that can be lent to EU governments for them to spend on their militaries. Now, that will obviously free up a lot of cash here in Europe. But one of the biggest shocks this week has been Germany's pivot. Now, Berlin, which has been the stalwart of fiscal discipline, is supporting the EU's move to loosen borrowing rules to allow member countries to spend more on defense.
All right. Chimbelu Chiponda, thank you so much for joining us from Berlin. Now, a South Korean court has cancelled on Friday impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest warrant, paving the way for his release from jail after he was arrested in mid-January on insurrection charges over his brief imposition of martial law in the country. The Seoul Central District Court said in a statement that its ruling was based on the timing of the indictment that came after the initial detention period had expired, and noted questions about the legality of the investigation process that involved two separate agencies. On the 15th of January, Yoon became the first sitting president to be arrested on criminal charges after days of a standoff between presidential guards and arresting authorities. Yoon's lawyers have said that he may not be immediately released because prosecutors can appeal. The prosecutor's office did not immediately comment on the ruling. Tropical cyclone Alfred is set to hit Australia's east coast on Saturday, bringing heavy rain, strong winds and massive waves. Thousands of residents, especially from Queensland and New South Wales, have been told to prepare or evacuate. Overnight, power has been cut, beaches have been eroded and airports have been closed due to the storm's impact. Winds over 100 kilometers per hour hit the coastal areas, and authorities have been warning people not to be complacent. Now, Alfred is currently about 200 kilometers offshore and is expected to land as a Category 2 storm. On your screens are the live visuals of how the cyclone is advancing, as shared by the NSW government. The slow-moving system could bring prolonged heavy rainfall, increasing the risk of flooding and damage. Residents are advised to stay indoors, follow official warnings and evacuate if needed. Now, an unexploded bomb dating back to the Second World War was discovered near Paris's Gare du Nord railway station on Friday. This led to disruption in several train services, including local metro lines, commuter rails and national as well as international trains. Authorities said that the bomb was found 2.5 kilometers from the train station in the middle of the tracks. Meanwhile, train traffic could be disrupted until the demining operation has been completed. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India marks Jan Aushadhi Divas, a Modi government initiative which provides quality medicines to people at 50 to 80% less prices than branded treatments. High Court bans all commercial activities at the zero point of Zochila Pass in India's Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And a look at India's women-centric initiatives with the International Women's Day around the corner.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. 26/11 Mumbai terror attack accused Tahawwur Rana files a plea in a US court to stay his extradition to India after a plea to stop his repatriation is rejected. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in his address in Dublin calls for strengthening India-Ireland ties. US President Donald Trump signs orders expanding goods exempted from his new Canada and Mexico tariffs. Mexico says thanks. Canada also climbs down. And South Korea has impeached President Yoon to be released from jail as a court cancels his arrest warrant. Interacting with the Indian community in Dublin, Ireland, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that when talking about India and Indians, people don't need a map. They remember from their past interactions and experience what India and Indians are.
I always tell others that when we speak of the image of India, others they don't look at a map to have an image of India. They remember a person. They remember somebody they know, some experience with them, a face, a relationship, a feeling. And while I have experienced this across the world, I must tell you, I felt it very, very strongly.
And the minister said that during his meetings with dignitaries in Ireland, he felt proud when they initiated talks about the Indian community.
In all the meetings, for me it was a great, I would say, sense of pride. They brought up the Indian community. They mentioned the contribution of the Indian community. Exactly what the ambassador said, that the professionals out here, the people who have contributed to the, not just development, but especially the health sector in this country. So, I want to really, sincerely give a very big thank you on behalf of the nation, because you make my job and my life easier.
The External Affairs Minister also addressed an event in Ireland's global university, University College Dublin, where he spoke about a number of issues, including a push for digital India and air connectivity. The minister also spoke about India's vision for the global south. He highlighted India's commitment to fostering cooperation and solidarity within the global south.
When we speak today in India about the concerns of the global south, our expectation is that Ireland more than many others in this part of the world, will display an understanding and support. We are two countries who do believe in the need for a world order, in respect for international law, and we do value international regimes and cooperation. In India, we speak of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is, the world is a family, which is very much a sort of a tradition. It encapsulates the fundamental openness of our society.
The minister also urged Irish universities to set up campuses in India, emphasizing the potential for deeper educational ties between both the countries while highlighting India's growing education sector, with many foreign campuses already being set up as well as functional.
We are very keen now that foreign universities set up collaborative or standalone campuses in India. Some of that has started to happen. We've had a few Australian universities. I've had a very high-ranking British university, more in the pipeline. I think a few American universities which will be coming in. So, Ireland has a very strong education system. So if we can get, I think, the universities linked up, and especially we can actually get Irish universities to set up shop in India, it would make a big difference.
And earlier, Dr. Jaishankar called on Irish President Michael D. Higgins, marking the beginning of his visit to Ireland. During the meeting, Dr. Jaishankar shared his insights on the contemporary world and its development debates. He also spoke on the role of culture in strengthening neighbourhood. And the minister also spoke to other Irish leaders, including former Prime Minister of Ireland, Leo Varadkar, and also interacted with Ministers James Lawless, Robert Troy and Member of Parliament Malcolm Byron. All the leaders appreciated their warm sentiments and steadfast support for India-Ireland ties. Now, India's Supreme Court on Friday adjourned for the 4th of April the hearing on a plea filed by the CBI to transfer trial against jailed JKLF chief Yasin Malik and other co-accused in 2 cases from Jammu and Kashmir to Delhi. In the next hearing, the top court has asked Malik to appear before it through video conferencing. The court will hear his side of the argument as well. He has requested the court to post the matter after Ramzan, to which the bench agreed. The top court on the 18th of December last year gave 6 accused 2 weeks to respond to the CBI's plea to transfer the trial of the cases. The CBI's plea involves the transfer of 2 significant cases: the 1989 kidnapping of Rubaiya Saeed, daughter of then Union Minister Mufti Mohammad Saeed, and the 1990 shootout in Srinagar, where 4 Indian Air Force personnel were killed. The request to transfer the trials to New Delhi stems from security concerns and the high-profile nature of the cases. India's Home Minister Amit Shah attended the 56th Raising Day celebrations of the Central Industrial Security Force, or CISF, in Arakonam, Ranipet on Friday. Amit Shah participated as the event's chief guest, marking the force's contributions to national security, and inaugurated various infrastructure and development projects. Amit Shah laid a reed to pay tribute to the CISF personnel as part of the commemorations. The event was held with full ceremonial honours, highlighting the force's role in safeguarding critical infrastructure across the country.
आज मैं तमिलनाडु की महान भूमि पर खड़ा हूं। 2019 में हमने तय किया कि बल का स्थापना दिन दिल्ली में मनाने की जगह देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों में मनाएंगे, और आज मुझे बड़ा आनंद है कि सीआईएसएफ का स्थापना दिन क्षेत्रीय प्रशिक्षण केंद्र तक्कोलम में आज मनाया जा रहा है। तमिलनाडु की संस्कृति ने अनेक प्रकार से भारत की संस्कृति की नदी को मजबूत करने का काम किया है, चाहे प्रशासनिक सुधार हो, चाहे आध्यात्मिक ऊंचाई प्राप्त करनी हो, चाहे शिक्षा के मानांक गढ़ने हो, चाहे देश की एकता और अखंडता का संदेश हो। हर क्षेत्र में तमिलनाडु ने भारतीय संस्कृति को बहुत मजबूत किया है।
Imagine getting quality medicines at 50 to 80% lower prices than branded ones. Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Kendras make this possible with 15,000 centres across India offering 2,300 types of medicines. DD's health correspondent Nitendra Singh gets us more in this report on Jan Aushadhi Divas.
March 7th marks the Jan Aushadhi Day. Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Kendras under the scheme offer quality medicines at 50 to 80% lower prices than branded ones. With 15,000 centres nationwide, these Kendras provide 2,300 types of medicines and surgical equipment. Notable, 40% of the centres are run by women entrepreneurs. Over the last decade, people have saved around 30,000 crore rupees through this initiative. The scheme makes affordable healthcare accessible to all, especially the underprivileged, while promoting women's empowerment and entrepreneurship.
I am really thankful to Mr. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India. For the people who are below the poverty line, they will be much benefited when they will come and visit this center, this medicine kendra.
People from every section of society are getting benefit from it. Generic medicines are usually 90%, we can avail the discount of at least 90% from generic medicines, and these are very useful also for people like us who used to have medicines of around 9,000 to 10,000 monthly, but now we are having the same medicines at around 800 to 900 rupees per month.
Medicines for heart diseases, diabetes, fever, pain and even cancer treatment are available at Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Even sanitary napkins are available for just 1 rupee. About 12 lakh people visit Jan Aushadhi Kendras every day. Those who want to open Jan Aushadhi Kendras are helped by the government. These Kendras not only provide cheap medicines but also provide employment. India's generic medicines are famous all over the world. 1 out of every 5 people in the world consume medicines made in India. Jan Aushadhi Kendras are being opened across the country to ensure that affordable medicines reach every person in the country, especially the poor. Government has set up a target of opening 25,000 Jan Aushadhi Kendras by 2027. With inputs from Nitendra Singh, DD India.
In India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, the High Court has ordered a ban on all commercial activities, including sledding and snow scooters at 0 point of Zojila Pass. The court has prohibited the use of polythene and plastic materials to safeguard the region's sensitive ecosystem. Concerns over illegal encroachments, environmental degradation and threats to rare species like Himalayan brown bear and snow leopard have been highlighted in the public interest litigation. The court ordered authorities to launch cleanliness drives and submit compliance reports by the 15th of April. Now, International Women's Day will be celebrated on Saturday, that's the 8th of March. The special day is dedicated to honoring women's achievements, raising awareness about gender equality and advocating for a fairer society. The theme this year is For All Women and Girls, Rights, Equality, Empowerment, which highlights the importance of creating a world where every woman and girl has equal opportunities, rights and the power to shape a future. IWD serves as a global reminder that gender equality is still a work in progress. The 2025 theme encourages people to take action by supporting policies and initiatives that uplift women and create equal opportunities for all. We at DD India bring you some of the stories about the initiatives taken by and for women across the country. Now, on the eve of International Women's Day, Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta attended a seminar on women power for Viksit Bharat 2047 at Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya Auditorium here in New Delhi. The theme of the seminar was Empower Women, Empower Bharat. The National Commission for Women is going to start 21 communication centres in 9 states of the country. These centres will provide counselling to young boys and girls prior to their marriages for better future. The tea community forms the backbone of Assam's tea industry, accounting for over 20% of the total population of the state. of which almost 50% are women. Employed in the tea industries of Assam almost from inception, women carry out plucking of tea leaves and some other important tasks including pruning, manuring, weeding, planting and more, making their role in the state's economy very crucial. Bringing the much needed change in the status of women, the government there is undertaking several proactive schemes on health, education, gender rights. Their conditions have improved, changing their lives for a better future. Also ahead of International Women's Day, Akashvani Dibrugarh and Doordarshan Dibrugarh held a workshop on women's empowerment for women in Assam's tea gardens. Speaking to DD India's Subina Roy, head of programs at AIR and DDK Dibrugarh, Lohit Deka called it an out-of-the-box initiative to bring awareness and encourage change at the grassroots level.
On International Women's Day, Akashvani Dibrugarh and DDK Dibrugarh has organized international women's workshop basically for the tea garden women workers of Assam. So we are here in Moran Tea State and we have with us head of program Akashvani Louis Chandra Deka. Let us ask him what is the sir, why did you organize it in a tea garden?
See, thing is that tea garden is the heart of Assam nowadays because the tea gardens are the backbone of Assam's economy, and that way a huge number of people are engaged in tea gardens. They have different cultures, different their lifestyles and all. But these are to be highlighted. See, thing is that these things are to be discussed because in their society there are many issues which have not yet been addressed properly, particularly amongst the women. So we are coming out of our studios and trying to highlight and find out those problems prevailing in the particularly the women's folk of tea garden community. That is the main objective of coming out of our studio.
So this year's theme is accelerate action. So how do we have a roadmap or map line, to just how can we accelerate action?
This is the action. We are accelerating the action coming out of the studio, being there amongst them and highlighting their problems, understanding their problems and bringing those among the international forum or the national forum.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for talking to us. We see this year's theme is Accelerate Action, and how Akashvani Dibrugarh and DDK Dibrugarh are coming out of their studios and organizing workshops in amongst the public where, they can accelerate action, bring out more of their issues and celebrate the change makers from among their community. With DDK Dibrugarh team, Subina Roy, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India shuttler Ayush Shetty is set to clash with Rasmus Gemke of Denmark in the quarterfinals of the Orleans Masters Badminton Tournament in France. And we take you to Iran to get you some glimpses of Tehran's latest contemporary art hub.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. And now it's time to get some sporting updates as well. India shuttler Ayush Shetty will lock horns with Rasmus Gemke of Denmark in the quarterfinals of the Orleans Masters Badminton Tournament in France on Friday. Shetty continues his solid showing. He defeated Hong Kong, China's Jason Gunawan in the second round at 21-17 and 21-17 to keep India's challenge at the Masters alive. World number 48, Shetty caused a big upset after beating former world champion Loh Keen Yew in the first round. Meanwhile, HS Pranoy and Kidambi Shrikant exited the tournament after losing their respective second round matches. Indian Grandmaster Aravind Chidambaram has moved closer to winning his first major tournament following an easy draw against David Navara of the Czech Republic in the 8th and penultimate round of Prague Masters Tournament. Aravind has secured 55.5 points, maintaining a half-point lead over compatriot R. Pragnananda. In the final round, Aravind will take on Ediz Gurel of Turkey, with Pragnananda facing a tough challenge against Anish Giri of the Netherlands. After losing 2 of his first 3 games, Chinese Grandmaster Wei Yi bounced back by defeating local favourite Nguyen Thai Dai Van. He is moved into 3rd place with 4.5 points. The Indian tennis team has been drawn against Switzerland in the 2025 Davis Cup World Group 1. As hosts, Switzerland will have their liberty to choose dates of their choice between the 12th and the 14th of September. India beat Togo 4-0 in the playoffs to qualify for the World Group 1 in February. The winner will advance to the 2026 qualifiers first round and keep their Davis Cup hopes alive, while the losing nation will be relegated to the 2026 World Group 1 playoffs. India have a 2-1 head-to-head lead against Switzerland in the Davis Cup. Botic van de Zandschulp has advanced to the second round after Nick Kyrgios was forced out of the India Wells due to a wrist injury. Kyrgios trailed 7-6, 3-0 when he quit the match after consulting the trainer. Zandschulp will face 5-time champion Novak Djokovic in the next round. Kyrgios, who hasn't won an ATP match since 2022, was clearly struggling in the second set, flexing his hand and staring at his wrist between points. Meanwhile, Emma Raducanu's struggles continued as the former US Open champion had no answers to the solid play of Japan's Moyuka Uchijima, who prevailed 6-3, 6-2. Raducanu made the 3rd round of the Australian Open in January, but has since suffered first round exits at the tournaments in Singapore, Abu Dhabi and Qatar. Sri Lanka will host a women's ODI Tri-Nation series involving India and South Africa from the 27th of April to the 11th of May. India will take on Sri Lanka in the opener, with all the games set to be played in Colombo. After playing 4 games each, the top 2 teams will be qualifying for the title clash on the 11th of May. The Sri Lanka team is currently playing a white ball series against New Zealand, while Indian and South African players are involved in the Women's Premier League. This competition will give these teams much needed game time leading up to the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup taking place this year in India. Indian football legend Sunil Chhetri has come out of retirement and has made himself available for national team in its 3rd round of the AFC Asian Cup 2027 against Bangladesh on the 25th of March. Chhetri had announced his retirement from international football last June after a stalemate against Kuwait in India's FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifiers. However, the 40-year-old will once again wear national colours and lead the line for India in the upcoming international break. India will play a friendly match against the Maldives on the 19th of March in preparation for the opening match of the AFC Asian Cup 2027. And that's all we have for the moment in this edition of the News Hub. Before we close it out, take a look at Tehran's hub of contemporary art. Abandoned since 1970, the Agro Factory gets a new identity as an arts incubator for the Iranian city. The art club features age-old exposed brickwork and new floating roofs. And that's it for now in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.